Hey guys, welcome back to Black Mass Paranormal. First of all, I want to say thank you all so much to all the new subscribers for all the positive comments that you all are giving me. It really helps me out. So, I wanted to do something a little bit different in this video and talk to you all about how I got started, the things that I deal with coming home from a paranormal investigation, and basically how I keep my life in control while doing what I do. Because when you go out and you are investigating these locations, you put yourself out there. Now, a big part of paranormal investigating is you open yourself up to these attachments. Now, for those of you all that are new to the paranormal world, and an attachment is when you go to a known or possibly unknown haunted location and an entity, a demon, a spirit, or whatever is there basically latches onto you and follows you. Yes, that's what I said, is it follows you. So these entities can actually travel along with you and get into your home and really kind of wreck your life. Now, my paranormal experience actually started when I was young. When the internet first came out, my mother was, prior to this, fascinated with ghost stories. Now, once she gets access to, at that time, was AOL, she was able to go out and contact people that were looking in the same kind of direction that she was. Now, obviously, there wasn't a whole lot of people on talking about the paranormal, and those that were on were pretty experienced in it already. So, in my opinion, my mother got tied up with a witch who actually practiced dark magic. Now, at first, I didn't really understand because I started seeing these artifacts and things showing up to my house that this one person began giving to my mom. Now, I think at the time my mom was kind of oblivious to how much this could actually affect your life. But once these artifacts started showing up in my home, the whole environment changed. And I started spending my time in the woods. Now, from the moment I woke up in the morning till I went to sleep, I spent my time in the woods. Now, this was a great experience for me because it made me the person who I am, and it got me into exploring old places. And kind of, at the time I wasn't looking for ghosts, but I was also exploring. One day when I came home, I walked in the door and I saw a Ouija board sitting on the table. Now, as many of you all know, that nothing good can really ever happen with a Ouija board. Now, when the Ouija boards first came out to the public, it was meant as just kind of a toy. However, throughout history, the Ouija board has actually been used to practice witchcraft and things like that. So, once this Ouija board came into my house, my mother really started kind of bringing things into the home that were pretty negative. So I always just, tried to avoid that situation. Now, as I got older, I had a lot of experiences, but the majority of them I pushed off in the back of my mind. I was like, there's no way this happened. There's no way I must have moved that object or something, something else. So I dismissed as much as I possibly could. Now, my mother's intentions were never bad. which is a key aspect in understanding the paranormal and witchcraft and stuff like that. Now, witchcraft is all about intent, but if you don't really understand what you're doing in the first place, you open yourself up to a door that you may not be able to close. So as I got older, I had all kinds of crazy things happening to me, like my entire life. Like at one point, the emergency room they basically kept my chart on the table. Like they knew I was coming in. Everybody knew me by my first name because I was always getting hurt in some sort of motorcycle accident or a car wreck, or, you know, all kinds of just weird things were happening to me. And I always just kind of brushed it off as bad luck. I just figured I was an unlucky person. Didn't really think much about it, and I moved on with my life. Now, this brings me to when Stephanie and I moved into a house that was built in the 1890s. Now, y'all, this house was absolutely beautiful. It was in East Tennessee. It had the nice wraparound front porch. However, with it being East Tennessee and it being built in the 1890s, it was always pretty hot in that house. Now, I'm not saying that that was paranormal. What happened to me one day when I was sitting on the couch really began to change my entire view of the paranormal. So one day when I was sitting in the living room, I look down the hallway and I see what looks to be a person at the end of my hallway. I just essentially see this black mass, which is where my name comes from. This is the incident that created Black Mass Paranormal. So anyway, so as I'm looking down this hallway, I see this black mass, but it's kind of looking like a person. So I think that somebody has broken into my house. So I jump up and I bull rush down the hallway, just going after this person. And when I get to the end of the hallway, there's nobody there. But it has gotten so cold in the house that I can see my breath. Now, this happened in Tennessee in the middle of summer. For you to be able to see your breath in a house in East Tennessee, it's got to be pretty freaking cold in there. Now, y'all, this was like straight out of a horror film, and it really freaked me out because I know what I saw, and still to this day, I know what I saw. So after this initial encounter, things start happening within my house. So one night, Stephanie and I are laying in bed. And earlier in the night, the kids and I had been in the living room playing with Lincoln Logs. So I hear electronic toys going off. So I immediately start thinking that one of the kids got out of bed, you know, was in the living room playing with Lincoln Logs. Now, as I walk down the hallway, I hear little feet run across the floor, and then Lincoln Logs come shooting at my legs, and they hit me. So I'm like, all right, you know, it's too late. You all need to be in bed. And I turn the light on, and there's nobody there. So I'm kind of like, wait a minute. So I'm looking around the living room. I can't find my son. I can't find my daughter. So I walk down their hallway, and I open my son's room. Look inside. He's dead asleep. Look in my daughter's room. She's dead asleep. Now, obviously, kids are pretty good at kind of tricking your parents, you know, to tell if you're asleep. But I want you all to remember that they would have had to have passed me down the hallway, got back into their room, closed the door, got back into bed, and have their breathing back under control by the time I got back into their rooms, which was basically impossible. So now I'm really freaked out. So I try to kind of pass it off, and then about a couple of weeks later, Stephanie and I again were laying in bed, and I hear boots on my porch. Now, our porch was basically connected to the master bedroom. Okay, so I jump up, I grab my pistol, I go out the kitchen and I go out to the porch and I say, this is private property. I am armed. You need to announce yourself and get off my land immediately. Now, I was specific as when I was saying you need to announce yourself. That way, the individual would have the opportunity to say, hey, I'm over here, and not startle me and, well, get, you know. So, after I make this announcement, I hear a little bit of rustling kind of in the wood line. So, I make the announcement again. Well, then things kind of start to change. I start hearing a walking. Now, this walking slowly kind of transitions to running, and I can hear the transitioning between the wood line, the grass, the sidewalk, into the porch. And by the time it gets to the sidewalk and it's close to the porch, I have my firearm up and I discharged it. Now, I'm pretty embarrassed about this because I'm a huge Second Amendment advocate, and I would never, never recommend anybody using your weapon in a way that could harm, the innocent. Okay. Now, luckily at the time, there wasn't really, we didn't have many neighbors, so it wasn't like I was shooting in just like this regular neighborhood. But once I hear the footsteps rush past me, I get this cold like gust of wind that like I can feel. I don't know what to do. I'm just like absolutely panicked because I just discharged my firearm and I don't know what I hit, if I hit anything, but I don't hear anybody moaning. I don't hear anybody groaning. Everything becomes dead silent. Like you could hear a pin drop because it was in the middle of the night. So I immediately walk back inside, and the first thing I do is I grab a bottle of Jack Daniels and I start taking shots because at this point I'm kind of like, what is happening here? So I try to explain what had just happened to Stephanie, and just kind of try to keep the situation as calm as I can. So then a couple days go by and I come home from work and Stephanie has made this awesome meal. So I'm like, okay, let me set the table. So I grab the plates and, set out 4 plates. And I look down and I see one of these plates and they're slowly kind of spinning like this. Okay. Now, my first thought was, okay, there's some water or something on the table because you know how sometimes, glasses will move or whatever. So I pick up the first plate and I look at it. It's completely dry. I look at the table. There's no water on the table, but I go ahead and I dry the plate off anyway. And when I set that plate down, I look over and this domino type effect starts happening. Each one of the plates starts spinning just like one by one by one, and I'm just like, I'm mad now because something is messing with me. So I slam my hands down on the table and it stops. So I try to enjoy my dinner, and at this point, Stephanie and we're kind of pointing out, it's becoming a daily thing. Like we are talking to each other, and we're explaining these weird happenings that's going on around the house. So, after this incident, and we start discussing it, things kind of calm down, and this pushes us into December. Now, I remember this because it was Christmas Eve. I'm a big holidays guy. I love the holidays. I love them all. I love Halloween. I love Thanksgiving, Christmas, any holiday. It just puts me in a better mood. So the kids are asleep. Stephanie and I are in the living room, we're wrapping presents, and we start hearing this just god awful scratching sound. It is so I guess it is so intimidating. We both are just completely panicked. So I begin trying to figure out where this sound is coming from. And I'm actually able to walk over to the wall and pinpoint exactly the height that these scratches are coming from. And as I put my ear closer to the wall, I'm just hearing just this, it's getting more and more aggressive. And it was so high up, it being an animal doesn't make any sense. Not to mention, earlier in the year, I had, I sealed off underneath the house. There were, there was mouse, traps down there. But this sound was so loud that there's no way it could have been a mouse. There's no way it could have been even a raccoon. I mean, it was that defined and that freaking loud. So after that happened, 2 weeks later, Stephanie and I moved out of the house. Now, this really kind of inspires me because I began kind of talking to my friends about some of the happenings, and I want to find a way to be able to share the experiences that I had in this house with others. So I get into paranormal investigating. Now, after a while, I'm starting to realize how real that this actually is. And I'm kind of dumbfounded that we walk through life and we dismiss all of these little things that are happening. Now, I'm not saying that these are all demons or whatever, but that was weird. I just saw a bright light move like right off camera. Okay, so I guess that will bring me to my next point. So after I go to these investigations, I put myself in a position where I can bring something home with me. And this is something that I have worked on immensely. Now, I have it in a sense now where I have somewhat pretty decent control of what is happening. Now, the outside of my house in the room that I am filming this in is the most paranormally active. Now, one night I had been on an investigation and not a whole lot happened. So I didn't enter my house through the regular way that I come in. And I kind of ignored some of the steps that I typically do. Now, I always take my boots off outside to make sure that I'm leaving that soil outside. I always say the Lord's Prayer prior to entering the house. And I say, nothing can follow me into this home across this threshold. I also burn Palo Santo wood. Now, a lot of people like to use sage. I personally feel like, from my personal experiences, Palo Santo wood works the best. Now, why? I couldn't tell you. I don't know why sage works, but I have brought stuff home. So, after this one investigation where I skipped the majority of the steps, the next morning, I guess it was probably about 4 or 5 in the morning, I get woken up to this happening. So this video is me laying in bed, and you can hear the child that you hear talking is my daughter. But hallway light starts turning on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off. So I have to go back and I have to cleanse my entire house. So another night, Stephanie and I had come home. We had went on a date, and we had come home. We weren't talking about anything paranormal at all. We weren't talking about any investigations or anything like that. And Stephanie and I are sitting on the back porch when this thing comes flying over Stephanie's shoulder and hits me in the shin. Now, this is used to install laminate floors, so it's a solid piece of steel. So now this happened on the outside of my house. Now the outside of my house is pretty haunted. Anytime I have friends come over, I love working on cars or, being outside. A lot of my friends will come over, but they don't like staying at my house when it's dark outside, because whether they believe in the paranormal or not, okay, this is a standard across the board. People do not like being outside of my house, specifically in my driveway, in the evening. What I do is I set clear and specific boundaries about what is allowed to happen in my house. Now, setting these boundaries is crucial if you are looking to get into investigating. And you will have to be able to accept the fact that there is a very good possibility that something will follow you home. It just is. It just happens. So on another investigation, one night when I had come home, I was asleep in bed, and I had what I thought was a dream of a little boy that was standing next to my bed, and I had sat up, and I was like, and he was trying to tell me something, but I couldn't understand what he was saying. So then he takes his finger, and he sticks it right in my chest. And I don't really think about it, but the next morning I wake up and I go to take a shower, and I take my shirt off, and I have this in the center of my chest. Now, I have no explanation for this, because this is clearly a burn. Like, this is not a scratch, but this is a burn that happened to me after an investigation outside of the location. So, y'all, if you are wanting to get into the paranormal and you want to start investigating, it's very important that you know the risks of what is happening here, because bad things can happen. There's a good chance that you can run into a homeless person. You can run into squatters, because the majority of these locations are going to be abandoned unless I have special permission to come there or I've asked to come. So, here's some bonus evidence. Okay, this was taken at Old Charleston Jail. I was not the one that actually filmed this, so I'm trying to make a copy of this on my phone. And when we were kind of standing around in a circle, so it's pretty amazing. So clearly you see this, and if you listen closely, you can actually hear the sounds of it running, which is even more terrifying. But you can see this black figure just dart right in between us. And at the time, the guy who actually got this was trying to figure out how to take a live photo. So, paranormal activity is never planned. You never know when it's going to happen. That's kind of the whole point. But guys, Thank you all so much for the support. I cannot tell you how much it means to me. I am so grateful, and I promise I'm going to continue to bring you all some awesome investigations. I'm going to do my best to kind of work with you all. Maybe I appreciate all the comments. I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. So also, I've had a couple people ask about how the best way to listen to this stuff. I would recommend getting a set of earbuds that go down into your ear, because a lot of these voices in a lot of these happenings, you don't get that full experience by listening to it through a regular like a TV or just playing it through your phone, because the details are so I don't know how to describe it, but if you all want to be more immersed in these investigations, I would highly recommend get you a set of earplug or earbuds to listen to everything, because there's a lot of stuff that I miss. I know AJ, you're awesome. I think she has noise canceling headphones. The way is how she listens to a lot of these investigations, and she picks up some amazing stuff that I completely missed. Which, AJ, you're awesome. Thank you so much. But guys, I gotta go get ready. I'm going to be heading out on another amazing investigation. I am super stoked for you all to see what happens, or if anything happens, at this next location. It's going to be crazy, because I don't want to give it away, but this place is probably one of the most paranormally active locations that I've ever been to. So, I hope everybody's doing well. And again, thank you all so much for the support. And until next time.